Are you in a position?
Hello, Jai Baba.
Start with the seven realities. Are you in a position?
Yeah, I'll read. Yeah. The seven realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following. Number one, the only real existence is that of one and only God, who is the self in every finite self. Number two, the only real love is the love for this infinity, God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. Number three, the only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, even, and even life itself are sacrificed. Number four, only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of the worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. Number five, the only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is an inner dweller in good people and in so called bad, in saint and in so called sinner. This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand, without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred. Try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feelings for each other, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. The only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. The only real surrenderer is that in which voice is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst all kinds of hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Amidst every, sorry, yeah, Jai Baba.
Or Meher Baba ki Jai. Much.
I find your volume quite low today, Karthik. Is there anything?
Okay. Try to change something.
Yeah, maybe your microphone is away or some such thing. At least I am having issue. Ashok, I'm not sure.
Is this better?
Yeah, now it is normal. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So last two weeks this has happened. If I'm using the speakerphone on the laptop rather than use the AirPods, audio quality is bad.
Oh,
If I'm home, I don't like to use the AirPods. I
yeah,
just
yeah,
use
understand. Yeah.
yeah.
Not good also.
Yeah. Okay, so I I heard you are not well. How are you now?
Yeah, much better. Yeah, just cold cough and I was feverish and all that. Yeah.
Okay. And Ashokji, you were late by a minute. Huh?
Yes,
Anyway, so
I had some issues with my, I don't know, in joining in. Sometimes the internet takes time. My
yeah.
apologies. I just joined exactly at 7:30 when he had started the seven.
Sure. So if you want, you can read first if you're comfortable.
Okay.
We are starting from chapter 12, so which is on the physical page, it's 105. So let's start. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Gift of God, chapter 12. Live a normal life and just love Baba. Then you will have a curtain of Baba's love protecting you from the world. Meher Baba. If I may just add, it's very profound. We have a protective shield, I mean, some sort of a shield, you know, from Baba, and he guides us. Okay, Baba.
Jai Baba.
Following Tempton's death in 1943, Baba had told my mother that he would again come to Bombay when Nariman and I were settled in our own home. His many visits to Ashiana, beginning in 1947, brought us great joy. Baba liked Ashiana. The first time he came to our apartment, he went from room to room, admiring the furniture and the curtains, and he made me open all the cupboards. He especially admired the large wardrobe where Nariman had hung his clothes. During his second visit, he took Dustaji on a tour of the apartment, and I had fun following the two of them around as Baba showed him each room. Of course, Baba pointed out Nariman's wardrobe with shirts hanging on one side and suits and ties on the other. Gustaji had never seen clothes hanging in such a manner before, as he had always kept his belongings in a trunk. Because Gustaji had kept long silence by Baba's order, they spoke in gestures as they looked at all Nariman's clothes. Their faces, especially their eyes, were wonderfully expressive when they found something they particularly admired. With their colorful, animated personalities, they remind me of two eager children, innocently pure, whose mutual enjoyment as they gestured back and forth to each other was a delight to behold. There was a regular schedule for Baba's visits. He
There
might
was
come.
no regular schedule.
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, this I missed that. Uh, Apologies, Baba. There was no regular schedule for Baba's visits. He might come for a day, a week, or a fortnight. One time he stayed for a whole month. Baba was always accompanied by some of the men mandali, and frequently he brought dear Mehra and the women. His plans might include simple gatherings with the mandali, family and closed ones, private interviews, public darshans, and singing at Ashiana, or larger darshans and more elaborate music programs at a public hall. Usually, Baba gave darshan to about 20 to 30 people at an apartment, but on two occasions, he opened Ashiana to large crowds, once to around 2,000. Baba also came to Bombay to contact must or simply to make train connections that were routed through the city to other parts of India. At those times, he would not see anyone except us. Twice, Baba even came specifically to see the cricket test matches, World Championship games, once between India and Australia, another time between India and West Indies. As man, he enjoyed cricket, but as God, he did his work through the concentration of large numbers of people on a single focal point. People new to Baba were sometimes surprised by his sense of humor. Once the daughter of one of the Baba's Mandali wanted to introduce her boyfriend to Baba. She had explained to him who Baba was, perhaps leading him to expect a discourse on some spiritual topic. A friend of my brother's, good at singing funny songs, was also there. When the couple arrived, Baba immediately turned to my brother's friend and asked him to sing. I wondered what the newcomer thought. He had probably come expecting Baba to enlighten everyone, only to find him laughing over light-hearted, silly songs. Baba enjoyed music. One night, as he was retiring around 9 in the evening, he heard someone singing and gestured. It's a good voice. Is it the radio? I said, no, Baba, it's a street singer. He told me to ask the singer to come the next day at noon. So I went down the street and made the necessary arrangements. The singer, a Christian who sang in English, came the following day. He told Baba that he had just learned a new song entitled He and was planning to sing it for the first time at Christmas. Instead, he sang it right then for Baba. Next time Baba brought the women to Bombay, he called for the singer to come again so they could hear him. Because Baba loved the song Begin the Begin, I kept the record, always handing it Ashana so that I could play it for him whenever he asked for it. One time, after listening to this song, Baba remarked, Begin the Begin reminds me of beginless, begin, beginningless beginning. Later on, he gave instructions to the Mandali that when he dropped his body, Begin the Beginning should be played in his Samadhi after his body was placed in the crypt. Each time Baba visited us at Ashana, we felt blessed with the experience of witnessing both his divine presence and his living humanity. One of his early visits, when he was accompanied by Adi Senior, Ustadji, and Dr. Nilu, is among my sweetest memories. Baba sent all three men to spend the night at the home of Meherji, who was then living in Bombay, refusing to allow any of them to stay with him in the apartment. Everyone was surprised, as it was unusual for Baba to sleep without a night watchman. When he told Nariman and me to go to bed, Baba did not want Nariman to keep watch in his room. Instead, he sweetly asked if he would be comfortable in the second bedroom, even offering to sleep there himself and give us back our bedroom, which we always reserved for Baba. We were touched by his loving concern, but assured him that we would be just fine where we were. I was awake the next morning at 5 a.m. when Baba peeked into the room when Nariman and I had slept. Sitting up in bed, I asked Baba whether I should prepare tea for him. He gave me a sweet smile and told me to go back to sleep. 15 minutes later, Baba picked in again and gestured that he now wanted his tea. This brief personal moment was filled with Baba's divine love, though his manner was delightfully human. Examples of the sweetness of Baba's simple human reactions to people standing out among other memories. When Nariman's grandmother visited from Karachi, she wanted very much to meet Baba. Although Baba was not seeing anyone or giving darshan at the time, he told Nariman to bring her to her apartment. Baba was at the door with me when I opened it and he embraced her. Grandmother, who was very tiny, could not see Baba clearly in the entrance where they were standing, so she took his hand and led him to the window in the sitting room. When she got near the window, she looked up and gazed at him. Baba's smile was so delightful as though he had just met a small child. He was very amused by her actions. Granny had an expression of great satisfaction on her face, as if to say, now I know what you look like. Beloved Baba speaks to each on his own on his her own level. To a child, he is a child. To a philosopher, he is a philosopher. He gives according to each person's individual needs. One time, Baba was giving darshan to thousands in our living room when a central government minister, a man very attached to intellectually oriented spiritual pursuits arrived. It is an important custom in India to remove one's shoes before entering a temple or mosque or before approaching a spiritual master. So naturally, this minister removed his slippers before entering the room where Baba was. As he approached to take darshan, Baba asked him, "Why did you remove your slippers? I am also in your slippers." Baba's simple words must have pointed out to this man that true spirituality involved more than the mere practice of ritual, and God is in everyone and everything. It is the loving response of the heart, not the mind, what is most important to God. Karthik, would you mind? Would you please highlight that last line? I would like to read it again. It is the loving response of the heart, not the mind, that is important to God.
Sure.
Yeah, this last line is it of the last paragraph. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Uh, we saw Baba's human side most powerfully in his choice to live a simple life, eating rice and dal, wearing clean clothing, and traveling third class on crowded Indian trains. Once Baba and some of the Mandali were coming to Bombay by train, and Ali Senior was bringing a car from Ahmednagar to meet them and drive them back to Mehrazad. Nariman was with Baba, and I was alone in the house waiting for them to arrive. A cyclone unlike any Bombay had ever experienced hit the city, uprooting huge trees and flooding certain areas. And Baba and the Mandali became stranded 40 miles away. The railway tracks were covered with water, and the train had to wait for the flood to recede before continuing on its journey. Telephone lines were down, so there was no way for them to contact me. Baba and the Mandali spent 24 hours in an overcrowded third class compartment without any food. Although Iraj ingeniously managed to collect enough boiling water from a drip in the steam engine to make tea for Baba, nevertheless, Meher Baba, the God man, was just as uncomfortable as everyone else on that train. No matter how human Baba's circumstances might make him appear to be, though we were constantly reminded that he was also God. During one of his visits, I wasn't feeling well, and he told me to take an aspirin before going to bed. Baba had retired, and one of the Mandali was keeping night watch. Eraj, Narim, and I were chatting in the dining room when which adjoined the bedroom where Baba was sleeping. Suddenly, I remembered Baba's order to take an aspirin, but discovered I didn't have any. And when Baba stayed with us, he did not want me to leave the house without his permission. Since I did not want to disturb him, I was undecided as to what to do. Then Erich remembered that he had some aspirin in the medical kit in the room where Baba was sleeping. Removing his shoes, Erich quietly entered and tiptoed across Baba's room, opened his bag, and got the aspirin. As he approached the door, he heard Baba snoring and thought passed his mind. Even in God's house, one can commit a theft. At that very moment, Baba snapped his fingers and asked, "What are you doing?" After Eric explained about the aspirin, Baba nodded and turned his back to resume sleep. Closing the door behind him and handing me the aspirin, Eric told us what had happened. We were reminded that nothing escapes Baba's attention, not even a leaf moves without his knowing. One particularly touching incident showing Baba's omnipotence as well as his compassion concerns a troubled widow from whom Baba had called, along with a few other women from the small community of his devotees in Bombay to take his darshan at Ashiana. Baba kept me at his side as he saw the women one at a time, embracing them and then giving them the opportunity to speak with him. In a strained voice, one woman told Baba that for the past 6 months she had been suffering a terrible agony. In her dreams and throughout the day, unwanted emotions and vulgar thoughts would come to her. She felt suffocated by them, guilty and tormented, as she was a very respectable woman who had been a loving, devoted wife and was the mother of two grown children. She tearfully asked Baba what she should do. He said, "Take my name." She told Baba that she had been taking his name, but the thoughts persisted. Baba then told her not to worry, but to keep repeating his name, even mechanically, whenever the thoughts came. Taking my name is like a mosquito curtain, he explained. The mosquitoes buzz outside, but they don't sting you. The thoughts will gradually go away. Even when Baba was not physically with us at Ashiana, he made his presence known. And I were fast asleep one night when I suddenly awoke. I felt prompted to get up immediately to check on the oil lamp that we kept in front of the photograph of Baba that he had given to Nariman and me on our wedding day. So urgent was his prompting that without even putting on my sandals, I ran barefooted to the second bedroom. As soon as I passed the doorway, I felt heat coming up from under the floor. Suspecting a short circuit in the electrical system, I went straight to the main switch and turned it off. Until that moment, I never walked around the house without my sandals. But if I had paused to put them on, I would not have felt the heat and the house would certainly have caught fire. Next day, we called an electrician who located a problem in the concealed wiring and repaired the damage. Baba had saved us. His prompting me to go to his picture was another sign of his constant, loving protection.
I can pause you there. I think all of us have incidents like that where Baba shows his compassion and grace. At least I can think of multiple points in my life where this kind of a incident happens. So just want to make that point.
Yeah, and the analogy of the of taking his name, his namasmaran, or we take his name constantly, acts as a mosquito net. I think it's also been discussed somewhere else.
Yeah,
Probably, so that's something he says that you take my name and I will protect you.
indeed. Hi, Ashish. Good to see you after a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, Jai Bhau Karthik. Yeah, I was traveling actually for 1 month.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you said you were traveling. Yeah. So, sure, agree another 5-10 minutes and then we rotate again. Yeah.
Okay, okay, fair enough. Chapter
Yeah,
13,
Baba.
Jai Baba. When the divine will has decreed must and will happen. Sorry. What the divine will has decreed must and will happen. And if I am the divine personification you believe me to be, then the last thing I would do is to avert or avoid it. Meher Baba. In April of 1944, a year before we moved into Ashiana, Baba took Mehra, Mani, Mehru, and Margaret to stay in Merazad, a newly acquired property about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The first one, the opening.
Sorry.
Uh, The the Baba's message in the beginning. Can you just go
Yeah,
there?
yeah,
I think it is too deep to just pass on.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Basically, what he's saying, don't pray or don't expect me to change the divine decree that what is already ordained as per the sanskaras would happen. That's what is the last thing I would do is to avert or avoid the divine decree or the divine plan. It gives that message that we should be ready to accept what's happening with us as Baba's will.
Yeah,
So it's very deep. Yeah. Yeah, Baba.
yeah.
And
Sanjay, it's correct. Whatever is written in our sanskaras, our past sanskaras and present sanskaras, we have to, uh, you know,
yeah,
exhaust those sanskaras. And I think it's mentioned in discourses that you have to have a some zero or quantitatively and qualitatively, and then only you can be ready for God realization. Correct.
Endure it, and also His grace does not include, uh, you
changing the
know,
plan.
changing the plan.
So
Correct. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
the main point here.
Yeah.
So that the ultimate surrenderance is needed. That's what he's expecting from us. Not that he will bless us with things that we expecting him to give us. Yeah, yeah, Baba.
Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. But he'll give us the strength to endure it.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He'll hold our hands. Yeah. Provided we hold his daman. Yeah, yeah, Baba.
Absolutely. In April of
Yeah.
1944, a year before we moved into Ashiana, Baba took Mehra, Mani, Meru, and Margaret to stay in Mehrazad, a newly acquired property about 15 miles northwest of Mehrabad. After a month, Baba called Naja and then Balu to join them. The original cottage was a small temporary structure built in great haste. So after some time, Baba asked Mehra to design the alterations and additions she desired. She then had the cottage demolished, and the present two-story bungalow was built to replace the temporary quarters. When the new house was ready, Baba celebrated by inviting close lovers from Mehrabad, Ahmednagar, Pune, and Bombay for a housewarming. A silver lock and key, specially made for the occasion, had been placed on the front door. Written on the lock were the words Meher and 27 August 1948. Everyone gathered in front of the bungalow, and Baba turned the silver key, opened the lock, and stepped over the threshold, thereby inaugurating his new home. Afterwards, the men went for lunch on the men's side, and we women had lunch in the garden. A year later, Baba sent a circular all over the world asking that his disciples observe silence for 1 month in July while he stayed in seclusion in the old bus for 40 days from the last week of June until 31st of July. Baba had Nariman and me to spend this time in Merazad. Karthik, if you can take it up, we want just have a look at the photograph. This is the Merazad bungalow. Wow. Baba and Mehra in front of the Merazad bungalow. Wow. It was relatively easy for us to keep silence in Baba's atmosphere, but his order was much more difficult for those trying to do their jobs and carry out their routines in the world. My father and Nargis had to run the household in Bombay, do the shopping, and manage all the daily in complete silence. It was particularly difficult for my sister Rhoda to look after her 1.5 month old baby, Merwan, her husband Jim, and her aged father in law without being able to say a word. But what mattered most was obeying Baba. My three brothers, sorry, my three brothers, Huma, Dara, and Nozer, were in their teens and still in school, but they stayed home during the month of silence. Naturally, they were too young and restless to sit in the house, so they went out for movies and played games like hockey and football with their friends. At first, their friends played jokes on them, but when they realized how serious my brother were about keeping silence, they began to respect and admire them for such a difficult feat and would go out of their way to be helpful. One night, Nozar and Dada decided to
If I
go
can
to a
pause you again
yeah,
here, this is yet another reminder of, like I said, experiences of the close lovers tell us how to live with Baba now, right? So this is yet another reminder of how important it is to follow his words, right? A lot of us take um, things like Silence Day, the need for prayers every day, very lightly, right? Baba's instructions. So this is yet another reminder how kids in school were taking uh, these words seriously and following it to the T at what I presume would be embarrassment and I would say a surprising way to have to explain to their friends. So it's important that we take that lesson away.
absolutely most appropriately mentioned. And so it's basically absolute obedience. Whatever he says, we have to follow
Yeah.
without any questions of why and what, but we just follow because he's got a whatever he directs is for our benefit.
True. So on that note, in fact, we can take a break. I mean, take a
Rotation.
rotation of the reading.
Yes, yes,
Um,
definitely.
Ashish, you want to read if you're comfortable?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I can.
sure, please.
One night, Nozer and Dara decided to go to a late movie, and when it was over at midnight, they hurried to the station to catch the last local train home. When the conductor came by to check their tickets, Nozer found that his wallet, which contained the tickets, his money, and a pad and pencil, had been stolen. Unable to write a message, the boys gestured frantically back and forth to each other and then tried to explain to the conductor through signs what had happened. At first, the conductor thought they were trying to get free ride on the train, and he threatened to take them to the station master. But as he watched them struggle to communicate with him, he must have felt sorry for these good-looking, well-dressed boys. He said aloud, "What a pity, with boys are mute, and let them go." When I heard this story, I was reminded of the period when Baba gave the woman Mandali living in Merazat an order to keep silence from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Nargis and I in Bombay were given the same order. We often attended movies on Sunday evening, and as they started at 6:30, we were constantly running into friends in the lobby who wondered why he didn't speak to them. To remain silent in the company of the resident of Merazad was a very different experience. Peace pervaded every moment of that month as we silently moved through our daily course. Since I was not residing there permanently, I had no regular duties. So Mehra gave me the jobs of watering the garden and cutting and saving pieces to make patchwork quilt. At the end of 40 days,
Baba sent for all Mandali at Mehrabad and Ahmednagar to be in the Mehrazat to break their silence when he came out of seclusion on 1st August. We all gathered near the blue bus, where Baba had four of the Mandali recite prayers from the Zoroastrian, Hindu, Muslim, and Christian religions, and then we all broke our silence by saying Amen in our own languages. After the prayers, we women went with Baba to the main bungalow. The month of observing silence had had many beautiful moments for me, including the moment it ended. The whole day I felt joyful, and when I walked, I felt as thought I were floating above the ground.
As though I was floating above the ground. Yeah, let's continue.
When Baba came out of a long seclusion, he usually wanted a change. At the end of those 40 days, he told me to write Dr. Alu, who had invited him to stay in her rented bungalow in Pachgani whenever he wished. Baba asked that the cottage be made ready in the second week of August so he could rest there for 5 or 6 days. He added that he did not want anyone there besides Alu herself. Since people do not usually visit Panchgani at that time of year because of the monsoons, the cottage was closed and a lot of work will be necessary to prepare it for Baba. Never, Nevertheless, Alu was delighted. She asked my sister, Nargis, and Diana Talati, another early Baba lover, to help clean the cottage. Meanwhile, Baba sent me to Bombay with Elizabeth Patterson and Norina Mechbeli, who were sailing to America, instructing me to be in Pajgani on the way he was due to arrive. From Merazat, he went to Satara with Mera, Mani, Gohar, and Meru for a few days, then made a surprise visit to Pajgani. When Alu saw Baba and a woman in the car, she became frantic, telling Nargis and Diana to hide because Baba had said he did not want anyone else there. Baba, seeing the condition of the cottage, asked Alu, will you be able to have everything ready within 2 days? Alu assured him it would be ready. How will you manage all by yourself? Baba asked. Alu, flustered, had to confess that Nargis and Diana were there to help her. With a twinkle in his eye, Baba asked where they were. Alu said they were hiding, and he told her to call them. When they came out nervously from their hiding place behind the cottage, Baba embarrassed him and said that Nargis and Diana could stay, even after he and the woman moved in. Baba went back to Satara, and when he returned to Pasgani 2 days later, everything was in order, very tidy and comfortable. After putting me on a train for Pasgani, Nariman returned home and found telegram which had just come from Baba saying, send Kharam with Arnaz. Kharam was very close Baba lover who had spent time in the ashram, sometimes even staying with Mehra in her room. Nariman went directly to her home and put her on the next train. On the arrival, before I had even entered the gate, Baba asked me, where is Kharam? I perplexed as I knew nothing about the telegram. She arrived a few hours after I did, and to our surprise, the five of us from Bombay were allowed to spend the entire time in Pasgani with Baba. Throughout this holiday, Baba was in a fine mood. We enjoyed going for walks with him in the bracing mountain air and had great fun playing games with him. In one game, Baba would show us his alphabet board and ask us to guess a number. He would then take something off the dining table like a sugar bowl and give it as a prize to the person who had guessed correctly. Dr. Alu had bought a new tea set for Baba, and when we played this game on the last day of our stay, it was these items that Baba gave us as prizes. I received a lovely blue nut bowl and a white butter pot, each piece precious because Baba had given it with his own hands. These days were certainly a treat, but they were also a time for serious training. Baba often quoted from the perfect master Kabir and Tukaram. I particularly remember that Kabir said, "Worry eats everyone. Worry is the master of all. All those who swallow worry, they are the ones who become fakirs." He also said, "When master gives on his own, it is like his giving milk. When you ask the master to give, it is like his giving water. But when you force the master to give, it is like extracting blood from him." Baba also commented on the importance of obedience and surrender, quoting Tukaram. "The inherent nature with which you are born remains with you. It does not change." Even after Tukaram became a perfect master, he went on singing bhajans because that was his inherent nature. Baba said, "The nature you are born with remains with you, but you can modify and change through obedience and surrenders to God." One day, when I was in the bedroom and others were on the veranda with Baba, he overheard me humming a Hindi song. Baba called for me and said, "I want you to sing that song for me." I was taken aback for a moment, but Baba had asked me to sing, so I did. "Beware, O you traveler, be very cautious. Treacherous in the path, hasten and traverse the way. For where you tread now, the path is very slippery. May it not be that you too fall and get caught in the quicksand." Baba apparently wanted all of us to listen to these words. In the years to follow, he was to give his small group of women from Bombay many orders which were often strenuous and demanding, and it was in the Pajgani that he knit our hearts together for his future purposes. I remember vividly one incident that occurred during this holiday. Alu's cottage had two large rooms and a long enclosed veranda with a sloping tin roof. Baba was sleeping in one room, Mehra, Mani, and Gohar in the other, and the rest of us on the veranda. One night, we were suddenly awakened by what sounded like a huge boulder hitting the tin roof, rolling down it, and dropping to the ground with a thud. Then we heard the clock strike midnight. We knew we were not to disturb Baba, so we whispered among ourselves about what might have happened. Moments later, we heard Erach, who was on night duty, talking with Baba, so we all went back to sleep. The following morning, when we got up, we searched for the boulder, but could find nothing. Baba gave no explanation for this incident, but it reminded me of something that had taken place in Lonavala in 1942, when we had been troubled by spirit, and we knew that Baba often stayed in places where there were wandering spirits in order to release them so that they could take human form. When Baba and the woman returned from Pasgani to Merazat, the five of us went back to Bombay. Just a few days later, Baba dropped a bombshell which pierced our hearts. On 15 August 1949, he declared his plans for something he called the new life, describing it by saying that he was going away, never to return, and that no one would ever see him again. We were devastated. The thought of never seeing beloved Baba again,
Devastated.
yeah,
Devastated.
devastated. devastated. The thought of never seeing beloved Baba again was unbearable. He had been training us all along to resign ourselves to whatever ordained. But this was an unbelievably severe test. The new life was to begin in just 2 months. Baba named Mehra, Mani, Gohar, and Mehru as the women who would accompany him, but the men were all given the option of going with him or remaining behind. Accompanying Baba on the new life meant abiding by many rules and regulations, and some feeling unable to live with the stringent conditions declined the opportunity to join him. Extensive arrangements had to be made. Baba appointed four close lovers, Nariman, Meherji, Saro Shirani, and Jal Kerawala, as his arrangement walas. Each of them had to look after certain matters both before and after Baba left for the new life. During those 2 months, Nariman had to go to Mehrabad nearly every week for meetings because there were so many details to be settled. Baba wanted to get rid of everything in the household except for the barest necessities, so he gave everything to Meherji to sell. Because Baba did not want to have any property in his name, Lower Mehrabad was transferred to Meherji's name. Upper Mehrabad, which was already in the Sarosh name, remained so, and Mehrazad was transferred to Nariman's name. Along with the transfer document, Baba gave Nariman the silver lock and key from the opening of the bungalow. Everyone was in shock. Though such a great changes were taking place to please Baba, we all tried outwardly to stay poised and behave as if nothing out of the ordinary were happening. Some of the women were sent to stay with the Jesawala family in Pune. Some were to be with Meherji in Bombay, and Naja and Katie were to live with Nariman and me. Just before leaving for the new life, Baba played an important round of charades with the women. He arranged them into groups of three, with each team acting out the title of a book they had chosen. The year before, Baba had sent Mehra and the woman to Bombay specifically to see the movie Gone with the Wind, and the team that included Baba and Mehra acted out this title. We all understood the significance of their choices as it spoke of what was happening all around Baba. Everything really was gone with the wind. On 16th October, Baba and his companions began the new life. The first news of Baba came 3 months later when he contacted Padri who had chosen to remain behind, telling him to bring a small caravan to where they were staying at the time. Two Mandali members were sent to meet Padri at designated place and receive the caravan. Baba told them to relate to Padri everything that had happened to them during the past 3 months. Padri was then to contact us in Bombay and share the stories with us. We eagerly received every word about our beloved. Then, 8 months into the new life, Baba sent Nariman and me a letter informing us that he was coming to Bombay in September and asking us to find a bungalow suitable for housing for men and women in separate quarters. We began searching immediately, and Dr. Alu discovered what turned out to be a perfect bungalow belonging to a family of seven brothers and sisters who were involved in a fight with another over the estate.
With one
The
another.
bungalow, yeah, with one another over the estate. The bungalow was locked up and in litigation, but Dr. Alu was very persistent and personally pleaded with each member of the family to rent the bungalow to us. She explained that she explained that her grandfather, who was not well, was coming to Bombay for a month to convalesce with his large family. She even spoke to their attorney, although the family was quite reluctant due to Olive's persistence. They finally agreed and gave the bungalow free of charge because taking rent would have led to complications in the legal dispute. Baba had obviously turned the key. When Baba came to stay in this bungalow, which was located in the Mahim section of Bombay, we had been given a strict instructions that we should never try to see him or any of the mandali. We were, however, allowed to provide food for them. The bungalow had a hall big enough for them to play badminton, and we brought badminton and table tennis sets so that Baba could play games with his companions. When he left, a few days of occupancy remained at the bungalow, so our whole family and some other Baba lovers stayed in the house in order to enjoy the atmosphere of Baba's presence. After the agony we had been through, not knowing whether we would ever have contact with Baba again, this was an exquisite gift. Since
Exquisite
we could
gift.
not, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
since we
Please
could
go
not
ahead, sir.
Since we could not see Baba or even write to him during the new life, Nariman and I planned trip to Europe for July through October of 1954. Then in June, Nariman received a most unexpected letter from Baba, who was in Hyderabad, calling him there. Nariman and I were thrilled since Baba had originally said we would not see him again. When he told Baba we would be leaving in July for a holiday to Europe, Baba asked if it would be possible for Nariman to come to a meeting with him and a few others in October. There was no question as to what we would do. Even though Baba had given Nariman a choice, we would never miss an opportunity to be with him, and we immediately shortened our trip in order to be back before October. Nothing was more important than being with Baba. Our trip was very enjoyable, especially meeting Baba's European lovers and visiting places. Baba had been such a St. Mark's in Venice, Cannes in France, and Fallen Fleur in Switzerland. I was particularly moved by European cathedrals and basilicas, especially in Italy. And I remember a small chapel in Pisa with a big mural of Jesus who bore a striking resemblance to Baba. We visited the Vatica and Saint
Vatican.
Peter, Vatican, sorry, yeah, Vatican and Saint Peter's. And when I saw the Pieta by Michelangelo, it was as
Michelangelo.
oh,
Michelangelo.
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 Pieta.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. Pieta is a painting. I
Italian
think it's
word.
a no, it's a sculpture. I think the name of a sculpture.
Yeah, it's a very known sculpture of Michelangelo.
Yeah.
A man and God are kind of trying to reach each other. It's
Yeah.
very beautiful.
Oh yeah. That photograph. Okay, okay. Their hands
No,
are
it's a
far away.
sculpture. It's a
Yeah.
sculpture.
Yeah. And just to say that Michelangelo was during the Renaissance. There's a time of you know
For the chief Renaissance artist. Yeah, thank you.
yes.
That's the Pieta. I don't know how that is pronounced in Italian, but maybe Pieta. I don't know. So its meaning is pity or compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I saw Pieta by Michelangelo. It was as though though my heart had been pierced by an arrow. After completing our tour of St. Peter's, I told Nariman that I would like to stand in front of the Pieta again, unable to move or take my eyes off the sculpture.
By the way, there's a photograph of Nariman and Arnawaz in Paris.
Just one question.
Uh,
I think in that Pieta statue, is that Jesus or what is that actually?
Yeah, good question. Pieta is subject to, yeah, Blessed Virgin Mary cradling the dead body of Jesus Christ after his descent from the cross. You're right.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
really. I mean, thanks.
So is this in Vatican? Famous example is in St. Peter's. Yeah, St. Peter's in the Vatican. Okay. Yeah, just pick up from the last line, unable to.
Unable to move or take my eyes off the sculpture of Mary holding her beloved son, I experienced the deep pain of her suffering. Even though I had spent my life with Baba and knew that Jesus and Meher Baba are one and the same, it was often Jesus' presence that was with me in Europe. In October, we were back in Bombay and Nariman went to Hyderabad as planned to be with Baba. At the end of 1951, Baba called us both, first to Mahabaleshwar and soon after that to Mirazab. Then, much to our surprise, I,
Kartik, I have a comment to make. I'm sorry.
Sure, sure.
But
Go
it's
ahead.
important because uh, if you roll it up, but it's a small sentence. It was, Baba all knowing, knew about their agony and longing to see him again. Uh, for my faith is telling me this was all this trip to Europe was Baba's arrangement, no doubt. And even her encounter and being so absorbed by Pieta Michelangelo's work. And this is very important. Here it says, she says, um, even though I had spent my life with Baba and knew that Jesus and Meher Baba are one and the same, it was often Jesus's presence that was with me in Europe. So, where Baba gave this to Arnawaz to feel Jesus's presence while traveling in Europe, knowing that Arnawaz knew that Baba and Jesus are the same. You see, he can give them. If you read Baba's New Life book, which I have to read it again, uh, he would not give uh, the um, the privilege or the image of him to them because he was no longer a master and he was an ordinary man. He stepped out of his avatarhood just for the sake of living the new life for us. So he wouldn't give that experience apparently to Arnavaz, but still Jesus was the avatar. So he gave the experience of Jesus to Arnavaz at that time. I thought this was really brilliant, you know?
Yeah, I haven't read the New Life book too. That must be, we should be adding it to our
Oh
wish
my
list.
God. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
extraordinary. I have to read it again. I mean, it's really, really hard to grasp it all, not in a sense of comprehension. No, it is not. But so much was going on, and it was very mysterious. Um, yeah,
So,
it's
which book
one of the
exactly are you
best
talking about?
book ever written, and Bakhal
So,
truly wrote them
I
toward the end. Yeah. I mean, he
Okay.
was the writer, but there was two major editor who really put it together. Bao provided the manuscript, but there were two, author, Western one, that really did all the work. But it's a very thick book, very nice one. And now it's out of print. Now it's out of print. If you bought it then,
It's
you're fine. Now,
it's also in the glimpses that the new life is quite nicely covered. Yeah. Glimpses of Godman, Balnath.
Does anybody have the PDF copy?
Yeah, that's going to be my next question.
no,
Glimpses
the
is
PDF,
there.
no, the PDF is not generated yet by the trust, but I took it with when Christina was moderating it. So basically, what she was doing is she would take a photo of those pages that were to be read and they display it on the Zoom as a PDF. Yeah, like that, so others could really read it. But it's a copyright, so you really have to do it and then put it away. You cannot distribute it
Yeah.
like that.
Speaking of which, she's actually running a infinite intelligence session. Are you attending, Mahu?
No, I finished the Infinite Intelligence
Okay.
book
Yeah,
reading
she's
with
doing it.
her.
She's doing it for a second time. This time
Yeah, but
she's called it. Yeah.
she's starting it from the middle, which I never could
Oh, okay.
understand why. And I asked her, why are you doing this? But anyway,
Hmm.
that's beside the point. But yeah, she
Yeah.
started from the middle of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
it
I
still
was
is good,
reminded.
if.
Yeah. I was reminded one of the days this week. I was working very late into the night. It's almost like 1:30 or 2:30 Dubai time in the morning. And on my calendar up popped Infinite Intelligence for Dummies, and I was so tempted, but I was so tired. I just went to bed. I would love to say hello to Christina and the group, but I was super
Yeah.
tired. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good idea when you're asleep because particularly she asks people one by one to share.
Yes. I know
So
it's a very
that's
intensive group. I mean, she runs it that way. Yes, you're right. But I
mhm.
like it. I enjoyed myself in the winter where the timing was a little conducive for a session that she was doing with discourses, and it was wonderful attending a few sessions. And I think Ashok, you attended one too, right?
Yes, I had. If you can again send me the link, or how do I
No,
get?
she doesn't record. She doesn't record. She doesn't
Oh,
record.
but I can attend it again.
Yeah, at 2:30 or 3:30 India time in the morning.
Wow, wow. That's the
Yeah.
3 o'clock is 3.03 is Brahma Muhurat. It's a good time.
Brahma Muhurt, yeah. Baba said it's a very good time. Yes. So if you're up to it, just look up on Baba Zoom.
Okay.
Okay, we can start again from in October. On that note, we can also rotate the reading. Mahu, are you in a position to read for a bit?
Yeah, sure, I can read.
Yeah, thank you.
So in October, we were back in Bombay and Nariman went to Hyderabad as planned to be with Baba. At the end of 1951, Baba called us both first to Mahalabeshwar and soon after that to Merazad. Then
The place is
much to our
Mahabaleshwar.
surprise,
Mahabaleshwar.
yeah, Mahabaleshwar.
Yeah, correct. Thank
Mahabaleshwar.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Baba called us both first to Mahabaleshwar and soon after that to Merazad. Then, much to our surprise, at the end of that year, which was 1951, at the end of that year, Baba came out of the new life. Stressing the importance of this period, Baba made the following extraordinary statement. By the way, this is the picture at San Marcos Square,
Yes.
Venice. Mhm.
Yeah.
Baba has
And by
been
the
there
way,
too.
thanks
Their picture,
Ashish
of
for
course.
reading. Yeah. This picture is famous. Yes. Yes.
So Baba made the following extraordinary statement. This new life is endless, and even after my physical death, it will be kept alive by those who live the life of complete renunciation of falsehood, lies, hatred, anger, greed, and lust, and who to accomplish all this do no lustful actions, do no harm to anyone, do no backbiting, do not seek material possessions or power.
Mahu, can
Power.
I request you to read it again and the
Yeah, he's
Baba.
got
Sure.
the. Actually, this is not an extraordinary statement. I don't know why editor said that. This is a Baba's major message. It's a
New life
message
message. Yeah.
that he gave. Yeah, yeah. So that's probably more accurate to say. This life is endless. I'm sorry. This new life
This new
is
life.
endless. Yeah. And even after my physical death, it will be kept alive by those who live the life of complete renunciation of falsehood, lies, hatred, anger, greed, and lust, and who, to accomplish all this, do no lustful actions, do no harm to anyone, do no backbiting, do not seek material possessions or power. Next page. Who accept no homage, neither covet honor, nor shun disgrace, and fear no one and nothing. By those who rely wholly and solely upon God, and who love God purely for the sake of loving, who believes in the lovers of God and in the reality of manifestation, and yet do not expect any spiritual or material reward, who do not let go the hand of truth, and who, without being upset by calamities, bravely and wholeheartedly face all hardships with 100% cheerfulness and give no importance to caste, creed, and religious ceremonies. This new life will live by itself eternally, even if there is no one to live it.
See,
After
most
the,
of, yeah, sorry to interrupt there. Most of it
it's
is
okay.
covered in the New Life song. The message that Baba is giving, especially to the lovers, how they must live their life, is covered in the New Life song. So sometime we
Yes,
have
it is
spare,
called
we
New
should
Lives.
read the translation of New Life Love in English, and that would be quite interesting. Yeah, Baba. Continue.
After the new life, Baba's health began gradually to decline. Although Baba wanted his lovers to know of his physical problems, Dr. Duncan was concerned that they would not understand God's human suffering, so they were not informed. Only Baba knew what everyone would soon be aware of, the tremendous physical suffering that was coming and would continue for the rest of his time with us. In 1952, Baba made plans to travel to the United States with Mera, Mani, Goher, Meru, Ranim, Kitty, and some of the men Mandali. But he did not seem happy about the prospect of this trip. Elizabeth, with the help of Norina, had succeeded in acquiring a large piece of property in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and they had completed the Meher Baba Meher Spiritual Center according to Baba's specifications. Elizabeth had invited Baba and the Mandali to come to Myrtle Beach to officially open the center. For several months prior to the trip, Baba would send a telegram to Elizabeth saying that he was not coming. Then a few days later, he would send another saying that he was. At the time, we had no idea why Baba kept changing his plans, but we later understood why he was so upset. Baba's departure from India was scheduled for 18 April, and on 1st April he came to stay at Ashiana with Mera and the others who were making the trip with him. After a few days, during which time Baba was noticeably restless, he told Nariman, next page, Nariman and Sarosh that he did not feel comfortable and wanted to stay in some other place. With great difficulty, Sarosh, who had many social contacts, found a small apartment in Bandra, a predominantly Christian suburb of Bombay. Mera, Mani, Goher, Meru, Erech, Dr. Nilu, and I went with Baba to stay in the Bandra apartment. We arrived in the morning, and throughout the day, Baba remained uneasy. We retired at 7 in the evening, but was disturbed by the local traffic and wanted his bed moved to another room. That night, Baba had his bed moved 3 times from one room to another, finally asking that it be placed back where it had been originally. The next morning, when Baba arose, he looked pale, drawn, and tired. He told us he had passed the worst night of his life, the night of his crucifixion, and we realized that it had been Good Friday, the day Jesus Christ was crucified. After breakfast, Baba wanted to return to our apartment, but there his distress continued. He actually pleaded with us to take him to a quiet place. He sternly told Nariman and Sorosh, "You don't know how much I am suffering. You don't care for me. You are not finding a secluded place for me." 2 days later, Sarosh found a small secluded bungalow situated on a beach 35 miles away where no one was around to disturb Baba. We spent several pleasant days there with him, and his restless mood passed. One day, yeah, one day as we were walking on the beach, dipping our feet in the ocean, Baba asked me, "Do you swim?" I replied, "No, Baba. You gave me an order not to." Baba then asked, "Is there any other order I have given you?" I said, "Yes. You've also given me orders not to drive a car and not to learn the sitar." Baba smiled and said, "You can go swimming from now on." Someone said, "Baba, since you are releasing Arnawaz from the order not to swim, why not allow her to drive also?" I remained silent. I would never have asked Baba to take away any order, nor did I let someone else ask him. Baba nodded in response to the question, appearing to indicate that I could learn to drive, but his reply did not seem wholehearted. During these days, Baba would often walk alone from one end of the beach to the other. I remember watching him one evening at sunset, his beauty leaving me breathless. He walked with long, long, graceful strides, his hair flowing, his sadra moving with the wind, while the ocean rippled and sparkled in the light of the setting sun. The moment was ethereal, and I treasure this memory of watching beloved Baba move so freely for the last time. Baba looked rested when we returned to Ashiana several days later, and he and the Mandali were soon on a plane headed for the United States. On 25th May, we were stunned to receive the news by telegram that Baba, while traveling across the United States by automobile, had met with an accident. The next day, the Bombay papers carried the story, mentioning that Mera had been critically injured. Baba and his beloved were suffering, and they were so far away that we were unable to do anything except wait. We did not learn the extent of their injuries or even whether dear Mera was going to live for 2 days. We sent cable after cable, anxiously awaiting further news until a second telegram arrived from Sarosh, letting us know that Baba, Mera, and the others were being well cared for. After 2 long months of waiting, we went to the airport to welcome Baba, Mera, and the others on their return from the West. Baba had told me to stay close to Mera whenever we were together, and now that seemed more important than ever. So I embraced her and sat by her side while we were waited for Baba to be brought from the plane. The scar on her forehead was vivid, and her face looked tense and pained. I could see that she was very shaken. Sensing that Mera was not in the mood to talk, I asked no questions. Later, she told me she appreciated my not inquiring about what had happened, and we never did discuss the accident. Although she had remained conscious throughout the ordeal, in his compassion, Baba seemed to have erased her memory of both the accident and their stay in the hospital. However, Mera's injuries had affected her profoundly. In the past, she had been able to recall the most minute, minute details, but now there were times when she required a lot of effort to remember specific events. Goher had arranged to show her x rays to the best brain specialist in London on their return trip, and when he saw them, he said that a person with such injuries could not have lived. Mera's injuries should have been fatal, but Baba kept his beloved alive. He later He later said that Mera helped him in his universal work by sustaining injuries in the accident. When beloved Baba was finally brought from the plane, we greeted him simply with folded hands, and he was taken directly to the Merazat by car. It was heartbreaking to see him unable to walk, being carried in a chair with casts on his hand and leg. The septum of his nose had also been broken, marrying his beautiful marrying his beautiful face. Long before the accident, Baba had said, "My blood will be shed on US soil." And the sight of him at the airport brought these words to my mind.
Painful episode.
Yeah, there is a story. There is a story of a flower that I think
Yes,
Katie Davy had
Elizabeth.
kept. Elizabeth had
Elizabeth.
kept in her
Elizabeth. Yeah.
diary. Incidentally, that was kept on the same page. Yeah, yeah, Baba.
No. It was a date. So
Yeah, yeah,
he
date. That's
gave it.
what
It was not a
in the book.
diary.
Yeah,
He just gave a flower and said, "Mark the date." And yes,
okay.
it was the date in May. I think it was May 22nd or
Same
May
date.
21st.
24th.
It was
24th.
May 24th. And I think it was 4 or multiple years later that the incident
Yeah.
happened and Elizabeth was
Yes.
driving. And
Yes.
if
Yes.
you recollect the episode, Baba goaded her to drive faster and faster.
Faster.
And it's a very small village road. There was hardly any traffic. So
Right.
yeah, it's a very
Yeah, Baba.
Yeah,
thanks.
that rose that Baba gave her, Baba gave her that rose
Yeah.
on May 24th, 1932, right?
Okay.
And then he said, "Remember this date. 20
Yeah.
years later, you tell me why I'm telling this to you." And well, 20 years later was not May 24th, 1952.
Me too. Yeah.
And now that book and where um, Elizabeth has kept that rose that Baba gave is
Is in Myrtle
available
Beach. Yeah.
for, is in Baba's house in Meher Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Wonderful.
that he did all that for us.
Yeah. I mean, imagine the guilt otherwise that Elizabeth would have had, even though, I mean, they had obedience, they had surrenderance, but still a part of them would feel that way, right? Uh, in the other
Yeah, I
accident in
mean,
India, yeah,
yeah. To be honest with you, I mean, from people who knew Elizabeth really well and spent a lot of time with her and so forth, because after that she lived her life in Meher Center till she died. Um, they didn't really say anything about her feeling guilty, especially Elizabeth. Baba told about Elizabeth that she is my yogi in the West. She is my yogi in the West, Baba said. She's very strong. And so, they are at the level of obedience that comes out of their love. That even if Baba say jump off the cliff right now, they would, without even
mm.
asking any question. So, without getting mad at Baba, you know, that's why
Oh
they were
yeah.
chosen to be around him.
I mean, if you go over how the center was built, right from the choice of the place to the things that happened before Baba actually visited,
Yeah.
you see shades of Elizabeth's personality that tells you a lot about what you just said. I had not heard that before. Yogi in the West, she really was.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
that that I read, I remember exactly when I read it, 2006, in a book called He Gives the Ocean by Naja. Naja
Mm.
Katwell
Yeah,
or
another
something like
Kotwal.
that. Katwell,
Another
yeah,
Kotwal.
exactly. Naja, yeah. She said it there. And yeah, Boba's instruction for finding the center is a lot of writing stuff
Yeah, the conditions.
about
Yeah.
the kind 4 conditions, and they
Yeah.
kept on looking. They couldn't find it. Finally, it was Elizabeth's father
Yeah.
that donated that 500 acre of
Yep.
land to them for this for this purpose. So it's all about Baba's design. I mean, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I think
you
we are
know.
at a logical point, so I thought we can stop here and start the
Yeah.
next chapter. Yeah.
What is the next chapter? I like to. Do you know? I mean, where
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it
It's
going from here?
there's no title, but then
Oh,
it's
I
the
see. It
50s. It's
continues.
just the
Yeah,
it's
that.
the
Yeah.
50s Baba at Ashiana.
I see, Anna. Yeah.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah.
What does one
The,
think
the,
of
the,
when you
the,
read this?
the,
Yeah.
the quote in the chapter is good. Greater than love is obedience. Yeah, Baba.
Greater
Jai
than
Baba.
obedience is surrender.
Surrender. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The latest Glow, I read a couple of articles which I strongly recommend for reading is The Opening Doors of the Soul is by Nosharwan Anzar. He has uh, kind of jot, jotted down his learnings at 8 doors of coming closer to Baba and with the learnings from the new life. So that's quite beautiful actually. Must read. Another
Yeah.
thing that has come up is the uh, uh, life of artist Anita Dekar.
Yes,
Our
yes.
letters to
I'm
Baba.
subscribed. Yeah. I am
That book,
subscribed to Glow. I moved
yeah,
from the paper copy
very,
to
very
digital, so he's sending it to me
beautiful.
digital. Much
Must,
easier,
must.
you know. But I haven't read any of them. I mean, no time. But very.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just read two of these. There are many more. There is one which is coming
Mm.
on the Leela, quite complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but these two are a good read actually. As
Yeah.
we are
I'm
reading
glad
this
you
book,
said that.
Arnawaz's letters, same
Mm.
way the closeness of Anita had with Baba, really, very,
Yeah, Anita. Did you read the article about Anita also?
yeah. I did read, yeah.
Oh, very nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know a girl called Kathy Lucas. She was Anita's caretaker. So she, in France, and she says beautiful stories about Anita. Yeah.
yeah, yes, yes,
Yeah, these are very. Baba says they are the chosen one. They are the chosen one
yes,
who come with him. You know, like 700 years. He's already
yes,
laid it
yes,
out
yes.
who's coming with him. 700 years.
There is a
Ah,
story of their running away from Paris because it was an attack from Germany just before they could save themselves the the attack, and they later come back and she serves in the Red Cross, serving the U.S. Army men. So that's
very
quite
nice.
interesting.
Yeah.
And her meeting with her husband, Roger, who was a sculpturist. Actually, I could see on the Google there are so many good works, and there is a book on his works actually. Yeah. Her husband's works. Yeah. Yeah. Bob.
Jay Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Uh,
Thanks for
I
sharing.
like to, I share something funny with you guys. I was
Sure.
just reading
For
it
sure.
this evening. So in one of, Baba's trip, like Baba after, from 1956, was it 56 or 52? Oh, I get mixed up with this. Anyway, 52, he was going to go to Mount, but because of accident, he didn't.
Didn't
So
go. Yeah.
change our plan. But 1956, he went and they were there and, they were hanging out with Baba. He loved the nature. And so, he was in a very good mood. So I was joking around and so forth. And there's this person who met Baba, and people of LA liked him. It's called Dana Field. So Dana Field brings a lot of good grapes, red grapes for Baba. And I asked, tell Baba that please eat these grapes. They're really good for you. and your health. And Baba says yes. So, he keeps on eating it for the next 2 days or so. But then when after 2 days when they were together, Baba said, he kept on patting on his tummy and says, "Oh, I have a lot of discomforts with Dana told me to eat all these grapes and now I have difficulty, that. Anyway, then he said, when I come back after 700 years, there won't be any more grape. And that will
Oh,
help you because out of these grapes, they make wine and intoxication comes. So when there isn't any grape, there won't be any wine. So I thought I shared it because no more in 700 years, there
So
wouldn't be any more
we,
grapes and
we have
wine.
an
Yeah.
opportunity, Karthik. We have an
Yeah.
opportunity to have wine this life.
Yeah, if you like. Yeah. Papa never said don't. So anyway.
anyway, thank you so much for sharing and
Yeah,
look
sure.
forward to seeing you all tomorrow in Discourses. This was a lovely read.
Sure.
Thank you to all the people
Yeah.
who read.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you for
Jai
the
Baba.
meeting. I
Jai
appreciate
Baba.
it.
Thank you.
Baba.
Thank you
Thank
so
Jai
you
much.
Baba.
Jai Baba.
all, and thank you,
Jai
God bless.
Baba.